All right, let's get into it. We're going to completely update our mental image of the Stone Age. So forget the whole grunting, knuckle-dragging caveman stereotype. The real story of our Paleolithic ancestors is so much more complex, way more intelligent, and honestly, a lot more interesting than any cartoon ever led you to believe. No, really, think about it. What's the very first image that pops into your head? For most of us, right, it's probably that classic museum diorama look. A kind of brutish figure, maybe huddled in a cave somewhere, wrapped in a shaggy fur. It's a powerful image, for sure, but as we're about to see, it barely even scratches the surface of the truth. So this is what we're going to do. We're trading in the old myths for the new reality. Instead of brute savages, we're going to see incredibly intelligent and adaptable people. Instead of these lonely grunters, we're going to find complex, social, and communicative groups. They weren't just scraping by to survive. They were artists, they were creators. And this isn't just some dusty, forgotten past. It's a living legacy that actually still shapes who we are today. Okay, first up, survival. I mean, how on earth did our ancestors manage to endure through ice ages and massive environmental shifts for a period of time that just absolutely dwarfs all of recorded history combined? The scale of this timeline is it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. The Paleolithic, or the Old Stone Age, lasted from about 2.5 million years ago, all the way to around 8,000 BCE. To put that into perspective, our own species, Homo sapiens, we only show up for the last 10% of that timeline. This wasn't just some brief chapter. It was pretty much the entire book of human prehistory. And you can literally track their brain power just by looking at their tools. They started with these really simple Oldowan choppers. Then, almost 1 million years later, boom, the Acheulean hand axe appears. It's symmetrical, it's planned. There was a clear design in the maker's mind. And by 200,000 years ago, they were using these sophisticated prepared core techniques to make super specialized, sharp flakes for spears. This shows incredible forethought, efficiency, and skill. But survival wasn't just about sharp rocks. No way. To make it through the ice ages, they needed a full-on survival kit. They mastered fire, for warmth, for cooking, for protection. They figured out how to make tailored clothing from animal hides, which was a huge leap forward in staying insulated. And get this, they weren't just hunkering down in caves. Evidence shows they were building their own shelters, things like wooden huts. These weren't just survivors, they were the master engineers of their world. So, okay, they were brilliant survivors. But were they doing it alone? Not a chance. Let's take a look at their social lives, which, it turns out, were nothing like that grim picture of life being nasty, brutish, and short. Check out this number, 0.4. That's how many people there were per square kilometer. I mean, the world was incredibly empty. And that low population density is exactly why they lived in these small, mobile bands of maybe 20 to 100 people. They had to be nomadic, always following the food, and that reality shaped their entire social fabric. And what's really fascinating is when you compare their way of life to the farmers who came later. Paleolithic hunter-gatherers, they're in small, nomadic, and pretty egalitarian groups. The Neolithic farming societies, settled and way more hierarchical. But here's the twist. Studies of skeletons show that Paleolithic people were often taller and had a longer life expectancy. Their diet was more varied, and they weren't as vulnerable to the famines that wiped out early farmers. It kind of challenges our whole assumption that life has just been a straight line of progress. And that egalitarian spirit, it almost certainly extended to gender as well. That old man the hunter, woman the gatherer trope is just way too simple. The evidence suggests that roles were super flexible. Men probably gathered, women probably hunted small game, and it's thought that everybody had a say in the big group decisions. In fact, this might have been the most gender-equal period in all of human history. Okay, so we've covered survival and we've covered society, but what about their inner world? What were they thinking? What did they believe? What were they dreaming up? This is where the story gets really, really profound. Archaeologists see this huge shift in the record right around 50,000 years ago. All of a sudden, there's just an explosion of new stuff. Bone tools, jewelry, musical instruments, and of course, the first undisputed art. It's like a creative light switch just got flipped on, signaling this whole new level of symbolic thought. And that leads us to one of the greatest mysteries of prehistory. I mean, why? Why go to all that trouble? Why crawl deep into the darkest, most dangerous, most inaccessible parts of a cave to paint these incredible animals on the walls? There had to be a seriously powerful reason. Well, one of the big theories is that it was a form of hunting magic. The idea is pretty simple. By painting an animal, maybe even painting a spear hitting its side, you could somehow magically influence the outcome of a real hunt. It was a way to feel like you had some control over the very dangerous and uncertain business of finding your next meal. But then there's another, more mind-bending theory: shamanism. In this view, the rock wall of the cave wasn't just a wall. It was a kind of veil between our world and a spirit world. Shamans would go into these trance-like states, maybe through chanting or dancing, and the images they painted were literally the visions they were seeing from that other side. Strange hybrid creatures, geometric patterns, things that line up with what people see during hallucinations. And this idea connects really well to another concept called totemism. That's the belief that a specific group or a clan has a deep spiritual kinship with a particular animal. This could totally explain why certain animals like bison and horses show up over and over again. They weren't just dinner, they were part of their spiritual DNA. So we have these intelligent survivors living in complex societies with these rich, symbolic inner lives. But why does any of this ancient history matter right now? Well, it turns out the echoes of the Stone Age are all around us, and even inside us. Let's just start with diet. The difference is just night and day. The Paleolithic diet was packed with protein from wild game and fish, tons of fiber from all kinds of fruits and vegetables, and it had 0 grains, 0 refined sugar, and 0 dairy, the things that make up so much of the modern Western diet. It's a staggering change. And here's the kicker. Our genes haven't really had time to catch up since the invention of farming. Genetically speaking, we are still Stone Age hunter-gatherers, but our diet and lifestyle, they've changed radically. A lot of researchers believe this mismatch is one of the root causes of many modern health problems like obesity and diabetes. It's like our bodies are running Stone Age software on 21st century hardware. But our connection to them goes way beyond just genetics and diet. It raises these really deep, really difficult ethical questions, especially when archaeologists find their actual remains. They're not just digging up data points. As this quote says so powerfully, they're disturbing a person, somebody's ancestor. And this has created a huge, ongoing debate. On one hand, you have the scientific need to study these remains, to unlock the secrets of our past. But on the other hand, many argue that these people, and their potential descendants, have a right to rest in peace. And this leads to all these tough questions about ownership and respect and repatriation that scientists and museums are really wrestling with right now. Which really leaves us with this final thought. The people of the Paleolithic, they left behind this incredible legacy. Tools that show us their intelligence, art that reveals their soul, and their very bones that tell their story. We are the inheritors of all of it. So the question for us is, what is our responsibility to them? What do we owe these people who for over 2 million years laid the very foundation for everything that was to come?